we'll start with some background, and then we'll get to the, after 9:30, we'll get to the real material. But the background is, as Sally and Will know, I've taught a course at the University for Seniors for several years on democracy, and I'm going to teach it again in January. I don't ever see repeat customers for some reason. I don't know why. Nobody ever comes back. But in the course of putting together a heavy set of materials like you have in democracy, I always feel that you have to have a certain degree of entertainment value. So you have to have something that lightens it up. And so I began to collect political cartoons. And the background is that when my son was in third grade at Congdon Elementary School, one of his teachers had him make a list of homonyms, words that sound the same but have different meanings. And he turned that over to me, and I'm still doing it now, 30 years later. So the same thing with political cartoons. I began collecting them for the course, and now I have several thousand. Now, we're not going to do several thousand today. I know we don't have time for that. But what we will do is probably I'll go through the principles of political cartooning with illustrations. And then time permitting, and that other stuff, you don't have to go over for that. You can stay here. Time permitting, we can go into specific subject areas in more depth, and we'll figure that out. By the way, last word before we take a break before beginning is that political cartoons generally are not funny. So just if you're here for the amusement purposes, you might be disappointed. The course, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, includes some fairly heavy material on disinformation, misinformation, intellectual or internet silos that people get into, echo chambers, a lot of things that distort our political perceptions. Now, political cartoons fall into that. People like political cartoons that affirm their own views, and you generally dislike political cartoons that champion a different point of view. So the value buried in the political cartoon is often what determines your emotional response to it. It's not the quality of the cartooning or the quality of the, artist. And so in some ways, we have to step back a little bit and just detach ourselves a little bit from our political point of view when we look at political cartooning as an art form, because you're going to be inevitably drawn to the ones that you agree with and to reject the ones you don't. Okay, I have selected just a mere 150 or so of the several thousand cartoons, and we won't get through them because, just for time. Let's see what happens here. Brett, maybe I'm going to need your help here.
You got it. I think just try clicking again on the actual screen.
So we just need to, I want to do page down, page up. And
just try doing that. There we go.
Okay. So I just hit that?
I think you're good.
Okay. Anyway, the principles and boundaries, first of all, the first five, there's 10, but the first five, and we're going to illustrate each of these: clarity and simplicity, exaggeration, symbolism. Everybody's familiar with the exaggeration, satire and irony, caricature, but there's others. And that would be timeliness and relevance. In other words, a cartoon goes out of date. The shelf life of a cartoon is very short. It's really looking mostly at what's going on right then. Fairness and responsibility. And boy, did I have to search to find illustrations of that, because most cartoons are not. They are overtly partisan. They're trying to communicate something. Visual impact and composition. Now that's where the artistry really comes in. Originality and voice. And I'm going to be I'm going to be emphasizing the work of Clay Bennett, who's a cartoonist that I greatly admire, and many of my cartoons are by him. So when we get to originality and voice, you'll see a particular style which he uses over and over again, and it's very effective. And then audience awareness. Some of the cartoons will work with some audiences, but not with others. Okay. Clarity and simplicity. Now, we go right to the first example, which is Air Force One, arrives from Qatar. And this is basically a cartoon that does not require a caption. Anybody can just take a look at that and say, and then one that's not overtly political. This is my friend Clay Bennett, showing a little comment on global climate change, which is sort of inescapable. And again, clarity and simplicity is really helpful. One that's just from this last week is snap shutdown. You see the familiar snap image with the added explosive in the middle of the bag. You don't see it at first, but when you look at it for a second, you see that there's something bad happening to snap. Now turn to the next category, which is exaggeration. And boy, this is easy. You can find these anywhere in cartooning. The first one shows the legislative and judicial branches crushed under the executive branch. How do you know it's the executive branch? It's the red necktie, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Again, with exaggeration, artificial intelligence is eating the planet. Again, an image that doesn't really require a caption. Those are my very favorite political cartoons. As a matter of fact, in selecting them for today, I largely rejected ones, not entirely, but largely rejected those that had a lot of words. Not because of our forum, where it's hard to read a lot of stuff, but because the best cartoons are the ones that are entirely visual or largely visual. Now, here's one that does have a lot of words, but I thought that was great for exaggeration anyway. Let's see if we get this. Okay, it says, "What's the big deal? Kids just like to play around and joke." So all the imagery behind this is J.D. Vance in the foreground. But he's just kind of apologizing for or explaining. And all this little imagery behind him is, I think, very effective. Okay, symbolism is the next one. Okay, brace yourselves. First one is this one. Now, what is symbolic about that? Well, you get the flag. Really, you don't need, again, a caption. The flag is symbol. The McDonald's paraphernalia is symbolic. In other words, all these things draw into your consciousness a whole bunch of stuff that isn't overt. Nobody has the words out there. In fact, there are no words. So another one for symbolism that's a really excellent one is this one. This was after the first 100 days. And in case you can't really see, Lady Liberty is in a jail cell. And so you're looking in through the bars, and you can see her marking off the days, the first 100 days. Another one that's sort of an ancient meme is that the rich white guys sitting around in their club smoking cigars is a meme that we see over and over again. I've been so depressed lately that I had my chauffeur commit suicide for me. So, but here the symbolism is the old white guys sitting around, and it brings again into your consciousness a whole bunch of stuff that it doesn't have to be overt. Nobody has to say anything about it. Okay, next we get to satire. Now, again, this is a rich area in cartooning, and you can find it anywhere you want to look. And here's one. I know what I'm doing. The essence of satire is to overstate or state something that's beyond reality, and have it nevertheless capture an important fact. Here's another one from just a few days ago. Now here the entire satire is in the caption, Lady Justice. That's Pam Bondi, if you don't recognize her immediately. The Pam Bondi, and it shows Trump foes are being skewered, and Trump friends are being coming down gently off of the. But I have some cartoons that I derived from 50 years ago from the New Yorker, and here's one. It says, "What the hell, Senator? Let's cut to the chase." Now this is satire because it's a little exaggeration, but only a little. It's not as big an exaggeration as we would wish. Okay, caricature. Now, this is endless, and this is the tool of the cartoonist. This is what the cartoonist is doing. He's making a caricature. He's creating an image which is you can recognize it in a tenth of a second. In other words, you don't need to look at it, you just know it. The minute it leaps into your mind. For example, now here we have caricatures are Trump is characterized, and then Stephen Miller is caricatured. And what do we have? Look at Stephen Miller closely. you have an image there of a person with pointed ears, right? Dark eyes that are impenetrable and unsympathetic, and that overlarge cranium, which suggests an alien. And so that's all that is clever caricature. Trump, on the other hand, we have the exaggerated hair, we have the necktie, which you almost never see the end of the necktie. I mean, the necktie is really down there. And this same cartoonist, I'll just show another example of his work. Here again, Stephen Miller is with the pointed ears, the dark eyes, the overlarge cranium. And again, Trump is portrayed with the exaggerated hair, exaggerated orangeness of the skin. And anyway, same cartoonist, I think here, it should, in this day, this is the scene in Independence Day when New York City gets destroyed. Watch him send in troops. It's here the symbolism is very, very easy because when you portray anybody in a diaper, you're infantilizing them. Back in the day, some of you are old enough to remember the Vietnam War, but back in the day, actually, most of you are old enough to remember the Vietnam War. Back in the day, we had cartoons of Johnson in diapers, playing with things he didn't understand. And there were anti-war cartoons that again used the diaper motif. Back to caricature for one more example, or maybe several more examples. You see the necktie going off the edge of the screen here. This one has 3 or 4 of the memes that are used by cartoonists: the very small hands, the long necktie, the exaggerated hair, and the pout. The pout, the extended lips, is another part of the capturing. A different cartoonist did the same thing here, extending the lips out, the necktie going off the edge of almost off the edge there. Not bad for my first 100 days. Okay, timeliness and relevance. Last night I went through my cartoon bank and pulled up a few that are from the last couple of weeks so that I could be timely, right? And one of them is this one. Mr. Roberts, the House Republicans have offered to deport the Blue Jays if you have any problems with them. This is about the World Series. And one of the teams was from Canada. They can be deported, right? Okay. Also timely would be this one. Do you have anything more nutritional than candy? We're stocking up before our SNAP benefits disappear. Those are, ones that are fairly precise to the moment we're in right now. But the next one is a cartoon that I've loved for years. You guys, Sally and Will, have seen this next one before, and that's the people reading the news. One guy is reading Edgar Allan Poe, another one's reading Stephen King, but the one that's terrified is the one that's reading the news. And in the course, one of the things I'm going to do in the first session is try to draw out from the people participating in the course their views of where we are in history, because we are very disquieted by our moment in history, and we don't know why. Are we at the end of democracy? Are we at the end of the Enlightenment? Are we at the end of Western civilization? We don't know, and we have to kind of place ourselves in time. But this particular cartoon is timeless. This is excellent, or at least it's timeless for our times, unfortunately. Okay, let's see here. Again, the timeliness. This is one more. This is having to do with the East Wing being torn down and essentially reconstructed in the image of our current leadership. And one from the first 100 days. Again, timeliness. The days being crossed off on the wall. We've already seen that before. Okay, now we get to the challenging category, the one I mentioned before: fairness and responsibility. Not very many in this group, but I did find one of my Clay Bennett cartoons that I think is excellent. Perfect translation: Democrat to Republican, Republican to Democrat. And we do need that. I mean, it's really, that's a reasonably fair cartoon. It's a balanced point of view. This one also, which shows ignorance and fear, which should be nonpartisan comments or statements. And then another Clay Bennett here shows autocracy, democracy, theocracy, all being interchangeable or potentially, what we live under. By the way, this is example of a really, really thoughtful and excellent cartoonist. You see a shadow under each of the characters. You see even the guy on the top, there's a shadow being cast by the top that he's taking off. This is very skilled artwork, and it's a cartoon. And so people say, it's a cartoon. It's like people dismissed Norman Rockwell for years, say, he's just an illustrator. He's an artist. He captured things that are enduring, and people have a great love for. Okay, visual impact and composition. And again, these are easy. I can get any number of cartoons that illustrate this. This is a new one from just the last week. It has to do with the ballroom. And I love the new White House Magic Kingdom and Ballroom. This is, and you see Tinkerbell up there. Tinkerbell's put on a little weight, but nevertheless up there. Much less funny, but also a strong visual impact is this one, which shows the relationship between ice and liberty. Liberty has been essentially thrown off the wall and is down there injured, and ice is up there sort of triumphant. Another same relationship is this one, where liberty, or in this case justice, is under the thumb. And you again need no caption. The wonderful thing about the really great cartoons is you don't need to read anything. This thing just says it visually. The hand of and the scales are what are under the thumb, the scales of Lady Liberty. This is one here that it takes a minute to see what's going on, but again, it's behind bars, and you see Lady Liberty behind bars. Its visual impact is very, very good. Okay, originality and voice. I mentioned that I was going to emphasize Clay Bennett, this one cartoonist. This is an old one from years ago. It shows a kid in a class in school with his book under his arm, looking into a room that says intelligent design, but he sees a church. And again, no captions necessary. It's really a very strong image, and it stays with you. Later on, you'll be thinking, what about those cartoons that Gessert showed at Forum this morning? This one may remain in your mind. This one here, the State of the Union, shows U.S., that's us, for the United States. And you can see that the marriage counselor is going to have a piece of work to do here, because neither of the participants look particularly eager to make a rejoining. And again, this is Clay Bennett. You can see the shadows under the legs of the chairs. I mean, it's very thoughtfully drawn. He captures a lot of detail. One more Clay Bennett would be this one, which just shows the Miranda rights torn in half. Again, no caption necessary. That's the one thing I love about Clay Bennett's work, is it always communicates clearly, instantaneously, without the necessity of a lot of words. The last Clay Bennett would be this one, Mideast Peace. That's this last week. Mideast Peace, with a triumphant smile, while he's choking American democracy with the other hand. So it's I'm sorry, I do have one more Clay Bennett. It's this one. Treasury Department proposes minting a $1 coin bearing President Trump's likeness. Okay, that's enough. Calm it down. Okay. Let's see. Audience awareness. Now, the audience awareness really means that you're playing to a particular audience often. And so some of the cartoons will work with some audiences, but not with others. This is basically for people in the progressive side. The torch of liberty is being passed from Lady Liberty, who's the big copper image on the upper left, to the people. The torch, and it's an interesting cartoon, a good cartoon, but it requires a little explanation. Now, timeliness and audience awareness is also served here. This is Stephen Miller. It's frightening. Freddie, who's that guy? Yes. Who's that guy?
Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, Freddy Krueger. Yeah. He's frightened because, and the little bats that are flying around Stephen Miller are effective. And the dark eyes that are impenetrable and unsympathetic are very, very characteristic. Another one that has to do with audience awareness. This will work with some audiences, but not with others. Voter fraud, sick 'em boy. And the dog obeys. Okay. Okay, so what makes a good cartoon? The 10 principles we've just gone on to, and then also the eye of the beholder. Now, the eye of the beholder is obviously what I mentioned earlier. If you agree with the message, you think it's a great cartoon. If not, not good. Okay, so now we have how much time?
So we got a good half hour, Charles.
Okay, well, believe me, you've got plenty of material. So what I'd like to do is offer you a couple of things. These are different subjects that we can go into in more depth. Politics and religion, we could spend a few minutes on that. And after all, since we're here at the UUCD, maybe we should do that. The rich and the poor. Now, that's a favorite of cartoonists, and it's been around forever. It's not specific to this era, and we can spend some time on that. Immigration, some of these are very grim. They're very, very serious cartoons, and they capture some of the horrific stuff that's going on. That's actually a very good group of cartoons, but not necessarily for a Sunday morning. Anyway, we can do that. If we had time, and we won't, but if we had time, I even have a collection of the relationship between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin down at the bottom there, the bromance. Well, should I just go ahead with the religious stuff? Okay, there are, my back's going to be a little bit. There are a bunch of other things that are not on this list, but I have them in the computer, and they include corruption, the courts, democracy, Democrats, the economy, education, environment, gender, global politics, guns, health and healthcare, history, kings or no kings, national security and defense, protests, patriots, race. So these are things that are on the cutting room floor. They're these categories. So we really don't have time for all this stuff. So let's look at a little bit at.
I think we just did a quick poll and we're all up for another 3 hours.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay, let's see what we got here. Religion, Project 2025. First of all, yeah, this is a nice, simple one. Now, you have to understand, and many of you who know me know that I'm a member of the free thinkers, and we're not all atheists, but we are largely people that have, are looking for a community that does many of the things that religious communities do, but does it outside of dogma. And so the UUCD and the free thinkers have a lot of overlap, a lot in common. In fact, we have joint membership of a lot of people. But to turn more to our political themes here, we've got this one, which is, now this is an interesting cartoon because it's, first of all, you got the long red necktie turning into a snake, right? You've got the very tiny hands, the 59, or is that $59.99 Bible for sale? The dollar signs in golf clubs. See the golf clubs over there on the left? Lots of money bags down near the bottom. So this is the stained glass window in modern times. Another one of my Clay Bennett cartoons is this one. It shows somebody in the library, and the only book in the library is Project 2025. And again, Bennett does not require a caption most of the time. Okay. It says here, when the new Pope was elected, he said it's a rigged election. You know who he wanted to be Pope, right? Okay, more about religion. It says, who needs school lunches when we have the 10 Commandments? So, again, you cover a lot of territory. Once again, apologizing in a sense because we all laugh at the cartoons we agree with, and we don't laugh at the ones we don't agree with. I included, at least when I do a longer talk on cartoons, I include some that I don't agree with, especially around immigration, where it shows the immigrants being essentially a horde of, scoundrels. And the cartoonist captures it. The visual image is really there, but I think it's a bad cartoon. Well, it's a bad cartoon because I don't agree with the political message. It's not a bad cartoon from a technical point of view. This is another interesting one, which says, we have discovered that all books have letters in them, and when rearranged, they can be made obscene. So, a little bit about religion and politics. Okay. And this is just a fun one. The Chicago Post challenges the Trump regime. End racism. Don't abuse migrants. Address climate change. And thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not put ketchup on thy hot dog. Okay. I have, there's a lot of these people that worry about Project 2025, worry about the rise of theocracy. What we want, of course, is we want everybody to practice their own religious beliefs freely, safely, without coercion. Everybody, that's what everybody wants. Everybody, except for a few people that are in charge right now. Make America white Christian nationalists. Now, the cleverness about this cartoon is it captures the motif of the hat very nicely. When you first glance at it, you think it's a MAGA hat. It looks like one. Another one that about the Jesus is King. It has placing a cross in the middle of government, and so again, it doesn't need a caption. This one says, "Big beautiful T for Trump," and the evangelicals are saying, "Oh, he's so devout." Right? Okay. So now let's see if I got one more here. Nope, I got more than one. White Christian nationalism. Now, this is a clever cartoon. First of all, the cartooning itself is excellent. I mean, it's really a piece of artwork. It shows the ladder to get up to the sort of the clubhouse is a little hard to get up, but the hanging noose is a perfect symbol of something that you say these people are not friendly to everybody. They are embracing things which are not part of what we see as America. This one says, "Don't feed the poor, don't shelter the homeless, double the military. Mary Magdalene's a 10. The savior we've been waiting for." This is making fun, of course, of the Christian right. It's not against religion, broadly speaking. Now, one more, since this religion issue touches so heavily on Project 2025, I really like this cartoon. Captures a lot of things. Project 2025, of course, is going to ride over Lady Liberty. We all get that. But look at all the lightning in the background. It's a darkness. This is not just a simple lady tied up on the railroad tracks. This is also that it's coming from a place of evil. So there's a lot captured emotionally in the message of this cartoon. This one, similarly, shows we need more God in government, but look at the relationship between the people with the sticks and the people on the ground. The people on the ground are all women, and the people with the sticks are all, in a sense, powerful and cruel. And the person with the cross is not in as menacing a position as the others. But the message is clear when you stand back from it that this is not that adding more God to government is very perilous. It could have a lot of bad impact. Okay, let's see, one more on Project 2025. We only need one book. That's like my going in the person going in the library and only finding one book. And this one here, MAGA, relationship between MAGA and okay. Now, what about, here's one that has too many words. So that's not the kind of cartoon I ordinarily go to. But what if the rapture actually happens? It's here, the good, the righteous, and the worthy are consecrated. So long, you godless, unbelieving left behinds. Gasp. Wow. And they run to the legislature and they pass gun laws and the climate change omnibus bill is passed and all kinds of things happen once the rapture has occurred. Again, it's much too complex to be a high-class cartoon, but it captures something I approve of, and therefore it must be a good cartoon. Okay, now the next category I have here is rich and poor. I can run through that fairly quickly if we like, or go on some rich and poor. Okay, first of all, this is an image here. This captures a bunch of things. Again, you have it's not just rich and poor. The rich is represented by a Republican, and so it's doing more than one thing. The people in the water include people of color. Maybe, right? Okay. The imagery captured here, the distribution of wealth in the United States expressed as peanut butter in a sandwich. So it's just, it captures something that you would, otherwise you might miss. Okay, let's see here. Spare a little eye contact. Now, this is part of a theme that goes through many cartoons. It's often the poor person soliciting something from the rich person and the interaction between them. I have a couple of these. Spare a little eye contact. This one here says, it's not as if I'm asking you to acknowledge our common humanity. Then this one says, now, no class war, welfare, okay? So it's a kind of a theme that runs through cartoons. Obviously, if you have several thousand cartoons, you can find duplicates of the same message over and over again. That's what I've got here. Okay, now here we have, this is from several years ago. It says, the party's over. Now, this is an effective cartoon because the woman clearly is not experiencing any party, right? There's a rat on the table. There's a rat on the window behind her. The windows are broken. The kids look dirty and hungry. And she looks like she's just beat, And so the party's over. The message is one of cruelty. By the way, this one is in fairness because there's a Republican and a Democrat at the door. It's not just the Republicans. So there's a degree of fairness. Okay, to lighten up a little bit, maybe we should try getting by with just one car. Yeah, the rich and poor. This is everybody recognizes this as being from the New Yorker. This is a New Yorker type of cartoon, and being in the New Yorker, it is a rich and poor contrast because the New Yorker is read largely by, educated people and often people of means. Going on though, we have this is all the hoi polloi. The regular people are fishing from the shore with their lines, and there's a little certain amount of anger out there. And the 1% is fishing with a net and even dropping some of the wealth into the water. They don't even need it. This idea, this cartooning meme, if you will, or motif of abundance on one side and poverty on the other side is very easy to capture. Here's another one. Your greed is hurting the economy. All this, these are a theme that recurs over and over again in cartooning. Here's another one that says, what? The 1% is, all the people do not weigh as much as the rich person with their big bag of money. What? He says. Now, some of these then are translated to food motifs, as you can imagine. It shows the rich, the fat guy on the left with the silk hat, which is an old image and meme for rich people, and the thin patched person looking at the bones in the other half. And so this is again, 26 billionaires own as much as 3.8 billion people. Same theme. And this, by the way, is again, superb cartooning. You look at the expression on the kids' faces. The kids are looking hungrily at the pie, and the pie, the guy with in the rich seat with the rich is being offered whipped cream, which is tax cuts, and it's being served by his waiter, who's obviously an elephant Republican. But look at the expression on the kids' faces. This is a wonderfully drawn cartoon because you come away with not only the political message, but you come away with an empathy for the kids, or for the people that are sort of have-nots. So this communicates several things. This is part of a rich tradition in cartooning. Here's another example. You poor folks looking at me like that almost makes me feel guilty. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Then it's again, he's got pie in both hands. He's got crumbs all over the place because he's not, and the crumbs that he has that are falling off of his chin are more than is left in the economic pie. I mean, there's a lot communicated in this. Okay. Sticking with the rich and poor theme here, we have this guy, amateur. The CEOs and boards of directors are clearly going to make away with a whole lot more than anybody that's robbing somebody on the street. Now, this is another older cartoon from the New Yorker. Yeah, New Yorker. I have the big collection of cartoons, and I've scanned a couple in. This one says, before we send a man to prison, shouldn't we at least be positive that he's not rich? Okay. And this next one I think is familiar. A lot of people have seen this one. There's no justice in the world. Some justice in the world. The world is just, depending on which fish you are. Yeah. Okay, now we go to immigration. And just to give you, I'm just going to show you the first one, and you can see why this is a rich area, but not one. It's not funny. This one, this is a superb cartoon. This is a superb cartoon. What we've got is the totally innocent little child. The ICE agent is extremely menacing, large, and even stooping over to get down to where the kid is. And what is he doing? He's doing a color chart, just like you would for the wall of your room. Again, no caption necessary. It's a wonderful piece of artwork. I would frame this and put this on my wall. This captures the whole problem with ICE in one image. You don't need to do anymore. Now, there's lots of stuff on immigration, and I'll run through these. And toward the end of the immigration stuff, there's stuff that's pretty heavy. Okay, the perfect ICE agent. And that's, by the way, in case you don't recognize it, that's Stephen Miller again. It says, even better, he doesn't have a heart either. Okay. From last week, Halloween, dear, you're scaring the children. So you use the ICE costume. But you see, this one has a little bit of dialogue. And when Clay Bennett addresses the same thing, he has no dialogue. He just has the ICE agent winning the scariest costume award. So again, Clay Bennett's cartoons are worth looking up online, and they're endlessly educational and sobering. I don't know what I don't want to say that they're joyful. They're not. They're basically capturing the truth of what's going on. Still staying with immigration, we have a whole bunch of images of Lady Liberty. Give me your huddled masses. You're surrounded, immigration cheerleader. Yeah, the ICE is now taking Liberty into custody. And you remember a little while ago, we had a presidential initiative to open the door to white people from South Africa. So immigration is not exactly being handled with an even hand. Same thing with, oh, and by the way, this, of course, plays upon the meme of the Sharpie, which is, part of the sort of political dialogue these days. The Sharpie has to do with President Trump altering the map to show where the hurricane is going to go when the Weather Service had said, no, that's not where it's going over here. He said, well, it must go over here because I have another state I want to include. Now the Sharpie enters into this one too. You see in his left hand, he's got the Sharpie, and it says, send me your Mar-a-Lago bellboys, concierges, housekeepers, valets, room service, and that's it. Still staying with the Lady Liberty theme having to do with immigration, we get back to Clay Bennett, and he shows us, beware of ICE, and the ice is cracking under Lady Liberty. And so, as I said, some of these cartoons are not funny. Here's one that says, time for you to disappear. ICE agent, again, manhandling Lady Liberty. This is from an actual photo of something that was happening in one of the arrests. And we see Lady Liberty talking to Second Uncle Sam. Says, I'm pretty sure he's going to deport me. Well, if he does, take me with you. I recently spent a couple weeks in Canada. Boy, are the Canadians nice. I kept apologizing for our political climate. They said, oh, don't worry about it. It's not your fault. They were just endlessly nice. So sometimes when they say, take me with you, I'm giving it some thought. Other people that have given it thought are here. Deport illegal immigrants. This is another sub-theme within the immigration theme. There's more of them. This one says, henceforth, let us set aside this day as a day of Thanksgiving, because lightning struck the Mayflower and everything else. It all burned up. Let us set this aside as a day of Thanksgiving. And it says, stop the great replacement. That's a meme or theme on the right, that there's a great replacement going on. That we're allowing all these immigrants to come into the country, and we're allowing people like, if you'll pardon the expression, women to have power. You know, and that we're doing this great replacement. The white male is being replaced, right? And the chief says, too late. Okay. Let's see. Here it shows again Plymouth Rock. They say they're building a wall because too many of us enter illegally and won't learn their language or assimilate into their culture. In other words, it's capturing exactly the arguments that are being used to justify a punitive attitude toward immigrants. And if it's put another, now this next one is one of these ones that requires no caption. This is, again, very, very well done cartooning. You have the Trump figure easily identifiable by the hair and the lips. You have the parents and the child being separated. You have the child reaching out to the parents. I mean, it's really an emotional message. No caption necessary. It just captures the moment perfectly. Here we have more or less the same thing. We're the pro-family party, separating the mother and the child. Now, this one you can't, this next one is clay bound. You can't read it though because of my reproduction. But what it says is Happy Mother's Day. Any of you that are have been down near the border, this is exactly what the wall looks like in Nogales, in Arizona. And it's just these big vertical, they go up 25 feet, and they're close enough together that you can't get a human being between them. One more immigration, or there's several more immigration. This is tragic. It should be Hillary in there. The power of this cartoon is really the dog bowl. The kid is in a cage, all right, but it's being treated like a dog. Yeah, there's more in it than it first looks like. And the kid, of course, is wide-eyed, terrified, and innocent. This is one that says, we can see these guys running from the left with their weapons. We have a Mexican Muslim here. Ay. Pam Bondi got involved in this. She says, only a gang member would need this disguise. That's why we're deporting him to El Salvador. This guy, Mike Lukovich, is very good. I have a lot of his stuff in my collection. Now, the next one's not a cartoon, but it captures the same sentiment. If I can get it to turn, there we go. ICE is taking Ronald into custody, and still staying with immigration. Got Come to Daddy, which is the businesses. The whole reason we have illegal immigration is because here's where the jobs are. And it's jobs, generally speaking, that you can't find workers for, changing beds in hotels, picking avocados, you name it. Okay, a few more here. We're still in immigration. We haven't even gotten to the other subjects yet. Immigration, I cover my face because I don't want my mom and kids to see what I do to other moms and kids. And this relationship between ICE and Lady Liberty is captured here. You have no rights, so remain silent. Anything you or a court of law says will be ignored. If you cannot afford a trip to El Salvador, a one-way ticket will be arranged. The next one captures, again, this relationship, but it's more effective cartooning in a way because the ICE agent is more menacing. The person that he's addressing is more helpless. And it's just, again, the cartooning captures the power relationships between, by the way, he has, by count, I tried to figure out if you're seeing only one side of his mouth, he must have something like 48 teeth. Well, I think that the take-home message from this morning is that political cartoons, of course, we go through them very quickly, only spend a few seconds on each one, but it's an art form worth examining, worth seeing what the messages are, and try to look for the subtle messages, which are really subliminal. So we're good.